guys. Short time. Yes, see. I'm recording this right after my last video, and I'm reading you guys my other final essay. This one, this one is for my philosophy of reality class, titled "Time in the Time Traveler's Life." I don't really think I have anything else to say. I forgot to say this last week. I went to a Goth Babe concert last night. It was so fun. If you guys haven't heard of Goth Babe, you'll probably like it. If you're into philosophy and ASMR, maybe. If you like dancing as well, then you'll definitely like it. But yeah, I'll just get right into it. This one just got a real similar word count. Are they? Oh shoot! Hold up, give me a sec. Okay, never mind. All right, let's get into it. Intro. Also, all the philosophy papers, at least for this class, they want you to have all these different sections, and it's really, you know. So, yeah. But I wrote this like 2 weeks ago, all basically in one sitting. I need to rewrite it today and tomorrow. Alright, in this paper, I'll be analyzing the film, The Time Traveler's Wife. I'm gonna say film slash book, because I've read the book and I'm also going to be making alterations to this as I read. This is kind of a proofread stage for me right now. And discussing the theories of time that it could support. I'll be arguing that the movie portrays time as a theory of eternalism, since it involves time travel and an unchanging future. And in eternalism, all time exists, and there is no privileged present. An objection to this view I'll address is that the movie could also support a dynamic theory of time, which is similar to eternalism. A dynamic theory of time is similar to eternalism, but with the addition of a privileged present moment that moves through time. Movie summary. I'm just going to title this Summary. The Time Traveler's Life is a film based on a book, which I have also read recently, so I'll be pulling from both the book and the movie in my paper. In situations where the movie departs from the book, I'll follow the book as it is the original source. The story follows Henry de Tamble and Claire Abshire's relationship from childhood to death. What makes the story strange is that Henry has a rare genetic disorder, chrono impairment, which, since he was 5 years old, has caused him to randomly and spontaneously travel through time and space. Throughout his life, he disappears from his present, for lack of a better term, and spends anywhere from a few minutes to a few days in different periods of time. Henry arrives entirely nude, usually in the relatively recent past during his lifetime, and very rarely in the future, even past his own death. Occasionally. We'll continue to discuss time later, but for now, back to the plot. Henry meets Claire for the first time when he is 28, but after this, he begins to travel back in time to her house, beginning from when she is 6 years old. During their childhood, they are friends, but Claire falls in love with Henry, and Henry is married to future Claire. Once they meet in Henry's original time, they begin dating and are married 2 years later, although the ceremony takes place between Claire and a future Henry. As they get older, Henry is officially diagnosed with chrono impairment, and they struggle with conceiving a child, going through 5 miscarriages before successfully having Alba, a daughter who also has Henry's disorder. When she is 5, Henry is transported into Chicago winter with no clothes and returns with severe frostbite, having to get both his feet amputated. A few months after this, on New Year's Eve, Henry is fatally shot by Claire's father in the past and dies in Claire's arms shortly after returning. Analysis. To begin, we must define what an eternalist theory of time is. Let me see how many words my summary is. 330? Way more than I thought. Wow, okay. To begin, we must define what an eternalist theory of time is. Eternalism is a theory that all past, present, and future exists, no matter where one might be in said time. Not only this, but it is also a static theory of time. Eternalism is a theory that all time, past, present. Not only this, but it is also a static theory of time, meaning the present does not move. This is essentially telling us that there is no privileged present moment that moves forward through time, as humans believe we experience. Instead, the present is an illusion that each person feels in their current time slice. Time slice is another term to define. Minkowski spacetime is a useful tool for visualizing this. As Barron describes it, a four-dimensional geometry capable of weaving together space and time into a single metric, where locations are both spatiotemporal points rather than space or time. A time slice is any way that we can take apart this four-dimensional geometry into a three-dimensional representation of the events taking place in the entire universe at any moment in time. The reason this is important is due to special relativity. This is a theory developed by Einstein which suggests that simultaneity is relative to the speed of the observer. Time slice is any way that we take apart. As Barron describes it, a four-dimensional geometry capable of weaving together space and time into a single metric, where locations are spatiotemporal points, rather than either space or time. A time slice is any way that we can take apart doesn't seem like the right word, but I don't want to say slice again. Any way that we can cut this four-dimensional geometry into a three-dimensional representation of the events taking place in the entire universe. At any moment. At any singular moment. The reason this is important is due to special relativity. This is a theory developed by Einstein which suggests that simultaneity is relative to the speed of the observer. What this means for time slices is that depending on the speed someone is moving, they can have an entirely different time slice than someone else in the exact same position in spacetime. Continuing with this, it shows that two people at the same time can have entirely different sets of events simultaneous with them, which means that different moments in time exist simultaneously. Continuing with this, it shows that two people at the same time can have entirely different sets of events simultaneous with them, which means that different moments in time exist simultaneously. This tells us the theory of eternalism is backed up by science, I think is what I was trying to say there. Now, what this means for Time Traveler's Wife and the science behind it. Continuing with this, it shows that two people at the same time can have entirely different sets of events simultaneous with them, which means that I'm just going to delete that line. Now, what this means for Time Traveler's Wife and the science behind it. First, let's take a look at why I believe that it endorses an eternalist theory of time. In the book, Henry is constantly traveling through time, leaving the present and exiting in the past or future. This already clearly endorses eternalism, as if the past and future did not exist, he would be unable to travel to those periods. However, time travel is not specific to eternalism, which says not only do past, present, and future exist, but also that there is only one past, present, and future. Other theories, like shrinking or branching tree theories, also support the idea that past and future exists, but they state that there are many different possible futures. However, Time Traveler's Wife shows in many examples that time and the events that occur in it are fixed and unchanging, a key feature of eternalism. When Henry is a young child, he and his mother get into a terrible car accident, during which he time travels to escape, but his mom dies. This is obviously a traumatic experience for Henry, and as such, he travels to that time often. However, no matter how he tries, he is unable to prevent the crash from happening. Another example showing that time is unchanged is the existence of closed loops in the book. Since Henry always arrives naked, it is necessary for him to resort to theft and learn to protect himself. The way he learns to survive is from himself. This means that, for example, as a young boy, Henry is taught by an older version of himself to pick locks. Then he grows up, travels back in time to teach himself to pick locks. The only way he knows how to pick locks is because of himself, though. This is paradoxical and can lead to the unattractive theory that there are infinitely many Henrys forever looping through their lives as time moves forward for them. This would also mean that there was an original Henry who had no one to teach him. However, eternalism can solve these problems. There's only one Henry, and the events of teaching and learning have always existed. There's not a loop. Instead, these moments in space-time simply always exist. Now that the paradoxes inherent in time travel have been addressed, we move to the science behind it. This has a lot to do with time travel, which is not in the readings, but was discussed in class in Individual Sam. Time travel, at least to the future, is theoretically possible and consistent with eternalism. General relativity says that every object in the universe is moving at the speed of light through space-time. This is at the point where I start quoting Kurzgesagt videos, Kurzgesagt, or one video by them about time travel, which if you've never watched a video, they're so interesting. If you're watching me, you'd probably enjoy watching them more. It's spelled Kurzgesagt. Just look up like time travel or anything interesting, and they probably have a video on it. And it's like animated about birds. Back to the essay, sorry. General relativity says that every object in the universe is moving at the speed of light through space-time. This means that an object at rest moves full speed through time, and an object traveling close to the speed of light moves slowly through time. What this also means is that travel backwards through time is theoretically possible by moving faster than the speed of light. In The Time Traveler's Wife, chrono impairment is a genetic disorder. So an object is moving close to light speed. Pass slower for them. Outside. Side of them. So their turn. So it will not age as external to them. Time passes at the same speed. Okay. If an object is moving close to light speed, time will pass slower for them, but at the same rate outside of them. So they will not age as external to them. Time passes at the same speed. They will not age as time passes externally, allowing for future travel. Yeah. What this also means is that travel backwards through time is theoretically possible by moving faster than the speed of light. In The Time Traveler's Wife, chrono impairment is a genetic disorder with unknown origins. However, if we try and apply the science suggested in the Kurzgesagt video, we're able to come up with a theory for how it may work. Henry has certain triggers that will set off episodes of time travel, like stress and drinking, which places strain on his body. What could be happening is that when his body goes through this, it triggers a response that spontaneously accelerates his body to the appropriate speed to travel through space-time to his destination. This would be close to the speed of light for forward travel, or faster than the speed of light to travel back in time. For future visits. In either case, time would work around him as he moves too fast to be perceived, or too fast to perceive or be perceived. Well, this seems extremely outlandish. There's a potential that a quantum theory could endorse this, as we have no idea currently what a completed theory of quantum gravity would look like. is a fictional world. We can assumption. This is a fictional world. We can make the assumption the science we don't know can work to allow chrono. We don't know can allow chrono impairment in. We can make the assumption that the science we don't know can allow chrono impairment for Henry without drastically altering the base structure of the universe. The upside of this explanation is that it can offer a scientific basis for the disorder that causes Henry's time travel. This is important because if we are forced to accept the mystical explanation for his shifts in time, then it completely undermines the validation that eternalism receives from our best science. And from there, we are forced to continually consider mystical arguments of time throughout the entire book, which means we would be unable to apply any of the science from our world to the book. An objection to the argument that the time traveler's wife endorses eternalism would be to argue against the static theory of the present that eternalism has. Typo. Instead saying that although all of time does exist, there's a present moment that moves through this time. This is to say that it endorses moving spotlight theory, which combines a dynamic theory of the present with eternalism, saying that the past, present, and future all exist, but there is an objective present that moves forward through time. This addresses the main concern people have with eternalism, which is that it does not account for the human experience of presentness and the progression of time by providing a reason that we experience passage. It does this without removing the validity of general relativity and Henry's ability to travel through time, so it may seem like a better alternative to explain time in the time traveler's life. The privileged pleasant would be Claire's perspective as time, as the one who does not travel. This would then provide a more comforting theory that allows the important moments of the book, such as their wedding and Henry and his mother's death, and Henry's and his mother's deaths, to have a real weight and significance when the present hits them, rather than the view that eternalism offers, in which there was never a point in which Henry's mother really died. Instead, that is just always a moment in time. Response. This would be an incorrect assumption to make. This would be an incorrect choice to make. While there are many ways to disprove moving spotlight theory outside of the time traveler's life simply isn't philosophy, I will argue against it strictly from the context of the book. In moving spotlight theory, there's an objective and singular present that moves through space-time, lighting up, much like a spotlight, specific time slices to signify they are the present. Time slice that is lit up in this way has a special property of presentness that gives humans the experience we so commonly think of as time passing. The first problem with using this theory for the time traveler's life is establishing where this present is. It obviously can't follow Henry, since he does not only move forward through time, since he moves through time and also often exists with past and present future versions of himself, which would mean an overlap in the present. Therefore, it must follow Claire and all the other humans existing simultaneously with her. This still brings with it several problems. First, when Henry leaves this present moment, why is it he still experiences time the same way in the past? Question mark. If there was something special about the present that humans are able to notice, then he should notice a difference when he's outside of this moving spotlight. The same problem occurs with Henry from the future coming to visit her, as he would notice a difference in her time from his own. There's also the fact that the time that Henry comes from, the time that he visits, both have Claire's, and supposedly they both believe themselves to be in the present, so how is one to decide which one truly is in the present? To solve this, one could perhaps modify the definition of moving spotlight theory to allow for several privileged presents, as Sam does in section 3.1 of his article. This view, called fragmentalism, holds that from each privileged present of every individual, the other frames of reference don't exist. However, this clarification only serves to confuse further. First of all, multiplying the privileged present like this across the existence of Henry's life must also allow for all beings across all space-time to have their own privileged present. This seems to remove the meaning of privilege from the present, and makes every moment in time the present, which takes away the entire point of the dynamic theory of moving spotlight. It also raises the question of what happens when multiple Henrys exist in the same time slice. Since he is one individual, he should have one present, but instead he is experiencing several simultaneously at different points in his life. These complications with a dynamic theory of time mean that these complications with a dynamic theory of time take away the entire reason for wanting to consider in the first place, which is that it gives us a simpler explanation for our experience of time. It is clearly much more complicated than eternalism. In conclusion, the film and book, The Time Traveler's Wife, represent a form. In conclusion, the film and book, The Time Traveler's Wife, represent a form of eternalism. I'm just going to say, in conclusion, The Time Traveler's Wife represents a form of eternalism that allows for time travel, both forward and backward through time. This is consistent with special and general relativity, our leading science in this field, and the way in which Henry travels could also potentially be described by quantum physics. The only other theory of time that could support time travel, moving spotlight theory. I'm gonna rewrite this conclusion because it's kind of terrible, but it's probably long enough of a video for now. Went on a little bit longer, but you know, that I suppose was the purpose. But I hope you enjoy. I hope you're sleeping soundly. Thanks for watching. Have a fun Thanksgiving if you celebrate, or have a good summer if you're in Australia. I don't know where my viewers are from. Have a good whatever you're doing.